Penny from Heaven by Jennifer L. Holmes. Chapter 13. Better Than Angels. The morning of my birthday is like any other. You would think me turning 12 would at least cause an earthquake, but all that happens is Scarlett O'Hara comes in and tinkles on my rug. Happy birthday, Mimi trills when I go into the kitchen. I've made you banana pancakes. Thanks, I say. She sets a huge plate in front of me. Unfortunately, the bananas she uses weren't ripe and are hard little lumps in the pancakes. How are they? She asks, beaming. Real good, I say, through a mouthful of sour pancake. When she turns her back, I give the rest of the pancake on my plate to Scarlett O'Hara. My mother comes into the kitchen and says, Happy birthday, Bunny. She pulls a small box out from behind her back and hands it to me. Thanks, I say. Can I open it now? Of course, she says. When I unwrap it, I see that it's a jewelry box. I look up at my mother, who's smiling at me. I remember her story about how she got a pearl necklace on her 12th birthday. Go on, she urges me. I carefully open the lid. Set on a bed of velvet is a ruby necklace. I recognized the ruby at once. It's from my engagement ring, my mother says. I had it made into a necklace for you. I don't know what to say. Do you like it? She asks eagerly. Sure, I say. Here, she says, let's put it on you. I stand still as she claps the slender gold chain around my neck. We go to the hall and I look in the mirror. My mother standing behind me, hands on my shoulders. You look lovely, she says, just lovely. But all I can think is that she just gave my father away. After breakfast, Frankie picks me up and we bicycle over to the store. Uncle Ralphie's the only one there, and it's quiet for once. Where's Aunt Fulvia? Frankie asks. Took the baby to her mother's, Uncle Ralphie says and turns to me, handing me a wrapped package. Here you go, Princess. Happy birthday. It's a pecan log roll, same as every year. He gets one special for me from a friend down south. Thanks, I say. You're welcome, he says, and gives me a big hug. Where's my candy? Frankie asks. You? All you're going to get is a smack on the head at this rate, Uncle Ralphie says. I was just asking, Frankie says. Uncle Ralphie hands us a bag of groceries. Take this over to your grandmother's first. She wants to make one of her soups. When you get back, I'll have you stack a couple of boxes that came in this morning. Okay, I say. As we bicycle over, I ask Frankie, what'd you get me for my birthday? Like I'm going to give you anything, he says. Aw, come on, I say. What did you get me? He pulls over and parks the bicycle. He tugs at something in his back pocket and pulls out a worn brown paper bag. Happy birthday, he says. It's a crime comic, Crime Mysteries. Neat, I say. Thanks. It's a good one, he says. You read it? What? He says. It ain't going to hurt it. When we get to Nonnie's house, it looks like nobody's home. Uncle Dominic's car is empty, and there are no cars in the driveway. Where is everybody? I ask. Uncle Polly and Aunt Gina went to Atlantic City again, he says. I don't know where Uncle Dom is. You know him. I guess, I say. I have to admit, I'm a little disappointed. I kind of expected the family to do something special for my birthday. We go around to the kitchen door, and I open it. Surprise! Everyone's there. Nonnie, Uncle Dominic, Uncle Nunzio, Aunt Rosa, Uncle Polly, Aunt Gina, Uncle Angelo, Aunt Teresa, Aunt Fulvia, Uncle Sally, and all the rest of them. Frankie slaps my shoulder, laughing. Got you! Uncle Ralphie walks in the door, still wearing his apron. Fooled you good, huh? Yeah, I say, and give him a big hug. You fooled me all right. Who's at the store? He waves his hand at me. Closed. You're only going to be 12 once, Uncle Sally says. Uncle Polly pats Frankie on the head. It was your no-good cousin's idea to have everyone park down the street to throw you off the scent. A regular criminal mastermind, our Frankie. I'm good, Frankie protests. Yeah, good at sneaking around, Uncle Polly lowers his voice. I better not catch you digging in the yard, you hear me? Who said anything about digging? Frankie says, all innocence. It's time for the birthday girl to blow out her candles, Aunt Gina declares, carrying in a cake. The cake is huge. It's got pecan icing and In white piping, it says, "Happy birthday, princess." "It's a rum cake," Uncle Nunzio says with a wink. "You're a big girl now." Uncle Dominic whistles, and Queenie Five trots over. He starts singing "Happy Birthday to You," and Queenie Five gets all excited and starts running in circles, her head in the air, yipping and howling along with Uncle Dominic so that it sounds like she's the one singing. When the dog's finished, everyone claps and shouts, "Encore!" and she does it again. Uncle Dominic kneels down and gives her a biscuit. "Gosh, that was something else," I say, laughing. "Was that what you've been trying to teach her all this time?" Uncle Dominic nods. "I tried to teach her pennies from heaven, but she couldn't get the hang of it." I lean over to blow out the candles. "Make a wish," Uncle Dominic tells me. But I don't know what to wish for. I have everything I want. After we eat the cake, we go into the dining room where a huge lunch has been laid out. All my favorites: potato croquettes, rice balls, cold stuffed peppers, eggplants, lasagna, pastaria, the whole works. "Your grandmother's been cooking for days," Uncle Polly says. "Tesoro mio," Nani says. "Ti voglio bene." I know those words. "I love you too, Nani," I say back. Pretty soon, everyone's eating. I'm allowed to a thimbleful of Chianti, and between that and the rum cake, I'm feeling giddy. Frankie whispers into my ear, "I think Uncle Polly's on to us about the backyard and all." They pass presents down the long length of the table. Uncle Nunzio and Aunt Rosa give me a fancy satin skirt, and Uncle Angelo and Aunt Teresa give me a brush and comb set, and Aunt Gina and Uncle Polly give me a pair of black patent Mary Janes. "Dancing shoes," Aunt Gina says, grinning. Naughty gives me a lace collar she's made, and Uncle Sally gives me $5. "Buy something you want, sweetheart," he says. After all this, Uncle Nunzio wheels in a brand new shiny bicycle with a big red bow. Frankie gives a low whistle. "We heard your old bicycle had an accident," Uncle Nunzio says. "Gosh," I say, stunned. "That's a swell bicycle." Baby Enrico toddles over to the bicycle and waves at it and says, "Carry you, carry you." Uncle Nunzio lifts him up on the seat, and Enrico gives a big grin, and everyone laughs. "Better watch that kid," Frankie says under his breath. "There's one more present," someone says, and I look up to see Uncle Dominic standing in the doorway. Naturally, he hasn't joined us for lunch. "There's more?" I ask. He passes a small envelope down the table. I'm thinking maybe it's money, but when I look inside, I can't believe what I'm seeing. "What is it, doll?" Aunt Gina asks. "Tickets," I say slowly, looking up to meet Uncle Dominic's eyes. "To the Dodgers game tonight." "You're going to the game?" Frankie bursts out. I look at Uncle Dominic. "An old pal of mine at the ball club got him for me," he explains. "Hey, what about me?" Frankie asks. "Did you get me a ticket?" "This is the princess's day," Uncle Nunzio tells him. Frankie glowers. "Yeah, well, I better get tickets on my birthday. That's all I'm saying." "I got you a ticket too, Frankie," Uncle Dominic says, shaking his head. Frankie's face brightens. "You hear that, Penny? We're going to the game." Uncle Dominic looks at me and says, "What do you say, princess?" Uncle Dominic and Frankie wait in the car while I run into the house. Mother's standing on a ladder in the middle of the parlor with a garden of crepe paper. There are balloons everywhere, and the dining room table has presents on it. "Daddy," she says, "lift the paper higher." "What?" Pop asks. "What?" My mother sees me standing in the doorway and freezes. "Bunny, what are you doing home so early?" Is this for me?" "Of course," she says with a smile, although it was supposed to be a surprise. "I'm surprised," I tell her. She climbs down off the ladder. "Maybe you should go out and come back in a few hours. Act surprised." "Look," I say, waving the Dodger tickets. "Tickets to the Dodgers game tonight. Uncle Dominic got 'em for me." She goes still. "Did he?" Outside, Frankie leans on the horn. "Mimi made a special dinner," my mother says, "and a cake too." "Please," I say, "please." My mother glances at Uncle Dominic's car idling at the curb. Some emotion flits across her face, and she closes her eyes briefly. When she opens them, she seems resigned. "Very well," she says, "you can go." I fling myself at her and give her a big hug. Thank you, I say. This is the best present ever. She smiles a little sadly. We'll eat your cake for breakfast. For breakfast, I promise. Even though I've lived not far from New York City my whole life, I've never actually been. Mother's always said that the city isn't safe, which must mean it's pretty exciting. Uncle Dominic drives us through the city so we can see the sights. It's incredible. The buildings are so tall that I have to crane my neck to see the tops of them. We drive by Radio City Music Hall and Grand Central Station and the Empire State Building, and finally downtown over the bridge into Brooklyn. The Dodgers are playing at their home ballpark, Ebbets Field. It takes a while, but we finally find a parking spot and follow the crowd. Everybody's talking and cheering. There's such a feeling of excitement in the air, like nothing I've ever felt before. It seems like the whole city is going to the game. A couple of boys are talking to a policeman at the gate. You gotta let us in, one of the boys is saying. Look, our buddy here got crippled by polio. He ain't got nothing to look forward to but baseball. Yeah, the crippled boy says, waving a crutch. I ain't got nothing but them bums now. The policeman studies the crippled boy and shakes his head and says, "Aw, go on in. You're breaking my heart." The kids grin at each other and slide through the gate. I'm gonna have to try that sometime, Frankie says impressed. Just need to find a crippled kid. We go into the rotunda. I've heard a lot about this rotunda. It's one thing to hear it described, but another to see it with your own eyes. The rotunda is marble decorated with baseball stitching. There are gilded ticket windows, and the lights are shaped like baseballs held up by baseball bats. It's beautiful, I say. Wait until you see this, Uncle Dominic says, and I follow him through a gate. My eyes go wide in shock as I get my first look at Ebbets Field. The diamond is a brilliant green, and there are signs all along the walls by the scoreboard. Frankie's looking at a sign. What's that mean? Hit sign, win suit. That's Abe Stark, kid, a fellow next to us says. Any ball player who hits the sign gets a free suit. Abe Stark's got his shop on Pitkin Avenue. Bet I could hit that sign, Frankie says, sizing it up. See that? Uncle Dominic says, pointing at a big sign for Schaefer beer on top of the right center field scoreboard. The H will light up for a hit and the E for an error, he says. I'm expecting we'll be sitting way up high, which is where it seems like most of the people are going. But Uncle Dominic just heads straight to the front row along the first baseline, right above the dugout for the Dodgers. We're so close to the field, we can almost reach out and touch the ball players. Then Uncle Dominic slides down the row and sits down. We're sitting here, I ask, astonished. Uncle Dominic nods. Frankie leans over the front row. Hey, that's Jackie Robinson. He's right there. Hey, Jackie, he hollers. There. Pee Wee Reese and Duke Snyder and Gil Hodges and Roy Campanella. The organist, Gladys Gooding, bangs out Follow the Dodgers, and the game gets underway. It feels more like a carnival than a ball game. There's so much to look at and hear. Men hawking hot dogs and cold beer chant, "Get your cold one now, hey they are, cold as the North Pole." The Brooklyn Dodgers Symphony Band plays Three Blind Mice. Then the umpire comes out, and a funny woman sitting in the bleachers named Hilda Chester rings her cowbell and shouts, "Eat your heart out, you bum." We sit in the best seats in the house, and I don't even have to look up at the sky to know that this is better than anything the angels can offer. End of chapter 13.